Let's get right to our panel now. MSNBC contributor Goldie Taylor is the managing editor of the Goldie Taylor Project, and MSNBC contributor Joy Reid is the managing editor of thegrio.com. If I can put this to both of you, and forgive me for personalising it, you both appear to me to be the embodiment of modern America. But it's something that Mitt Romney, Republicans, Fox News don't seem capable of grasping.
Sure. No, I remember as far back as maybe 1996 when Newt Gingrich was pulling together people like J.C. Watts and wanting to, and Jack Kemp, and wanting to expand the big tent that was supposed to be the GOP. Ironically enough, or unfortunately, in the time since, that tent has only gotten smaller. And so they're playing to a more and more extreme base that is getting, aggressively older and whiter all of the time. Meanwhile, the rest of the country is getting younger, more brown. Women are growing in economic power and political heft, as we saw last evening with the election of so many new female senators across this country. And so the country is literally growing against the GOP base. And it is unfortunate that even today, many years after 1996, that this GOP still has not recognized that it is not about whether or not they're reaching out, but whether or not they're listening to those constituencies that they want to represent.
Do you agree?
Well, no, I think what we're seeing is the aftermath of the culture wars. I mean, I've had this theory that the culture wars ended a long time ago, and both sides understand who won. And it was really this new America, this more diverse, more tolerant America. And I think, the most charitable way you can look at it is there are people, and most of them are older, a lot of them are in the South, that look at this country and don't recognize it. They feel that it's been sort of stolen away from them by immigrants, by African Americans, by people they just don't see as prototypically American
Romney
like they are.
actually repeatedly said at campaign
all the
rallies,
time,
I want to take back America.
Well, that's what the campaign
But the
was
America
about.
he wants to take back is, he wants to take it back to 1953, as opposed to 2012.
Where they felt comfortable, and I think where people felt like just by being in their own skin they had power. And now I think a lot of people feel disempowered, and seeing Barack Obama reelected as president, confirms their worst fears, that maybe this wasn't a fluke, that maybe this other America really is dominant.
On Fox News last night, as we know, it was something of a dark night of the soul. I'd like you to take a listen to the performance of Karl Rove. Just bear in mind, this man's super PAC spent over $300 million attacking the president. Here he is.
Even if they have made it on the basis of select precincts, I'd be very cautious about intruding into this process.
Well, folks,
thanks.
So maybe not so fast.
Thanks a lot. Thank you. It's great to have you guys here.
That's awkward.
That's awkward. Goldie, did you get the impression that he was trying to bring back the ghost of 2000 there?
It is ironic that this is the very same Karl Rove that did want a network to reverse a call in Florida in a prior election, and then absolutely. But I've got to tell you, I could not for the life of me fathom anyone who would trust Karl Rove with another $325 million, to put against anything. I mean, who would believe his numbers? Who would believe his political case for an election, after, a landslide such as this? And by the way, I mean, Joy and I talked about this. I did another show some weeks ago and said that the president would get 300-plus electoral votes, as many as 330. Everyone on that panel laughed me off as irrelevant and silly. And last night, as the returns came in, this race was never close. It was never going to be the model that Karl Rove thought it was. It certainly was never going to be on the model that, Dick Morris thought it was. Here's the clincher. They modeled this on 78% white turnout.
Yes.
It was 72. And so white America is shrinking. And they haven't come, really to grips with that.
Joy, there are so many flaccid bags of toxic waste on the Republican side at the moment. We've, of course, got Donald Trump and, of course, the revolting John Sununu. But we also have the man who spits when he speaks, Mr. Dick Morris. And he earns special mention today because he says, and I'm quoting him, "I predicted a Romney landslide, and instead we ended up with an Obama squeaker." That's an Obama squeaker. He's at 303. He could be at 330 with Florida. That's a squeaker?
It's a squeaker because there is this age of unreality. And the thing is that because conservatives have been
So even after the election's been counted, the age of unreality continues?
It didn't happen. I think
it didn't happen. There wasn't an election.
It's not
and it'll never happen.
Right.
So the president's not been re-elected?
No, I mean, I watched a little bit of a certain network today just because I wanted to experience it for myself. And if you live in that universe that they've hermetically sealed themselves inside, Barack Obama can only be elected through fraud. Sure. There are no actual supporters of his. Everyone has been hypnotized. He's a wizard.
Appreciate you explaining this to me.
And they've developed this alternate reality because it feels good. And unfortunately, there's no adult in that party who can say to the voters on the Republican side, you lost this election and here's why.
Sure.
You're too extreme and let me explain to you why that frightens people. There isn't anyone, and you know what? Even Mitt Romney doesn't have the stature to do it.
We are watching the first family arriving at the airport in Chicago, about to board Air Force One. We were speaking, you were just saying that there aren't many people who are grown-ups in the Republican Party, but there is Bill O'Reilly, and let's listen to what he has to say.
The white establishment is now the minority. You're going to see a tremendous Hispanic vote for President Obama. Overwhelming black vote for President Obama, and women will probably break President Obama's way. People feel that they are entitled to things, and which candidate between the two is going to give them things.
Does that remind you of the president being described as someone who gives free stuff? Remember that fundraiser that Mitt Romney attended?
Remember when Mitt Romney, came from an NAACP address and came back and they want free
people are victims,
stuff.
They want home and
Well, that's
health.
what the meaning of socialism is. They want to take my hard-earned dollars and give them to those people for their stuff. And that's really what it's.
But if you treat the electorate with absolute contempt,
sure.
right? And then they don't elect you, why do you go on television when the result has come in and continue to treat the electorate with contempt?
Well, I mean, think about it. This is a party that's built its base on workers who have willingly become non-union and hate unions, even though they would have better benefits and would make more money if they were. These are states, particularly in the South, that are basket cases. They are wards of the federal government. They take in more federal tax dollars than they could ever give. It's the blue states subsidizing their lifestyles, and these are people who are, by and large, on Medicare. So they themselves are on the same dole that they say is evil and socialist. They are in a disconnect with reality that is ongoing and that is fed purposefully by people like Dick Morris, by people at that network, because then they turn around and they make money off of them because, they sell Viagra and such on the air.
They do. As I say, we are still watching the first family. They're expected to descend from the helicopter in any... and I believe, is that the president? Yes, it is.
Look at that.
That's the president and his two daughters descending the stairs, and the First Lady as well. And they'll be approaching Air Force One and making the trip back to Washington very soon indeed. They're smiling at us. Already, Goldie, some on the right have attempted to delegitimize the result of the election.
Sure.
Can you explain that to me?
Well, Donald Trump is still trolling America on Twitter. Each night he picks, someone else, whether it's Mark Cuban or the president or someone else. Mm-hmm. And I heard, Mitch McConnell say this morning that this was not a mandate. Yes. As if this kind of broad-based support, that this kind of coalition, unlike any coalition that we've ever seen in the history of American politics, doesn't say something to this country about itself and about the direction that we are choosing to take, the vision that we bought into. If that isn't a mandate, I don't know what is.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because I also heard the other meme that was going around is that the president should show humility, that he needs to comport himself in a way that he doesn't come across as a victor, that he almost needs to come hat in hand to the right and ask them what do they need.
That he's responsible for bipartisanship.
Right.
But that is, as I've said, that is privilege, in action when you are asking this particular president that he should be the one hat in hand, when he's the one walking home with the political capital.
And he did win.
After all.
He did win.
Goldie Taylor and Joy Reid, thank you so much as always.